physical wealth.
Hello, hello, hello. Today is Monday night, and you have finally entered the week officially. Today is wait a minute. It's September 9th of 2024, and we're getting really close to election time. I know it's a hot buzz, but yeah, it's getting really close. But anyway, I'm going to give people a little time to get in, so I'm going to do a little bit of an intro. It's been a while since I've done an intro. So this is the Erudition network, and this episode is the Adroit Living session of the Erudition network. Here, we like to volunteer this time to interact online free of charge to provide a holistic guided perspective towards mental health and physical wealth. As a psychologist and industrial organizational psychologist and phenomenology being my expertise, I like to volunteer this time towards mental health and physical wealth by linking subjective and objective perspectives via science and faith in order to aid well-rounded knowledge and positive mental health. You see, science is the method humans use to tangibly, that means you can feel things and you can make it make sense. And faith is the innate part of humanity which compels people to discern, be creative, compassionate, and even spontaneously behave the way they do. I mentioned in the previous episode, people have a tendency to change in the blink of an eye. So that's what I mean by that. But the subjective perspective is an opinion based, and the objective perspective is based upon facts and factors of facts, such as faith in God and the factual evidence thereof. So you have some evidence that leads to there's a God somewhere, and then there's the whole, oh, well, that's an opinion based on your personal experience or group experience. So those are factors of facts that leads to helping people to understand difficult or complex information. One of the main points of the Adroit Living Interaction live stream has always been to show how mental health is physical wealth, and each episode is a different contribution towards such effort. I appreciate your feedback and comments, but most importantly, I appreciate your unique attention to my approach being so different from a lot of the things that you see out here. I don't know if there's another psychologist out here that's like live streaming and interactive, even at that, and trying hard to speak generally to the public so that everybody has an understanding, let alone a holistic understanding of various things that when they try to put things together, they struggle a bit. So it may cause them sleepless nights, some anxiety, confusion. It may lead them to make bad decisions or decisions that would have otherwise been better had they had a better understanding or more clarity. So I really appreciate everyone taking note of my unique approach. Maybe there'll be more psychologists that'll come on and say, hey, I think I can talk plain enough for everybody to understand in a general sense. But it can be extremely stressful and difficult to help people with mental health, but pray God give it to you because God fills the gaps. Everybody else is just trying. But sometimes the topics that I present can be a little tricky. So I like to encourage everyone to watch until the end. And I've also challenged viewers to watch each episode at least 3 times, each time having a different perspective to assist with mental health, critical thinking skills, memory, and understanding. Just to name a few of the benefits of repeating watching my videos, which challenge trending perspectives. A lot of times, I don't directly talk about the hot topics that's trending on social media, but indirectly, because I don't want anyone to feel like their path is necessarily wrong or right. It is your path, it's your individual path, and it's unique to you. You make it look good. Okay. That's why nobody can copy you. You cannot be copied, you cannot be duplicated. Okay. So I'm just saying it's important for people to understand that I'm not taking a stance on or judging anything in particular, but bringing facts and factors of facts. Hi, Mike. How you doing? If I understand, you're doing it. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Evening. Good evening. This is a live interactive show, so please feel free to comment. And if you have any questions, especially based on previous episodes, please, please say something in the comments. A lot of times I refer people to reading materials so that they can be more knowledgeable. And this book is available on Amazon, Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, and Your Success. In the book, I talk about a lot of things. Here's a couple of pictures that's in the book that aid understanding. And it's essential because a lot of times psychologists have difficulties helping people to understand. But I've been blessed that I've not had that problem. A lot of people can understand because I use a remedial level vocabulary. And I always link everything to something common that everybody can understand. That comes from the Rudyard Kipling If poem. So yeah, I'm trying to get everybody to understand, because when we have a clear understanding, then we can see and better understand how to move and react in the time that we are in. So yeah, let's try to get this camera back rolling. I have no idea why the camera keeps doing that, but it happens rather often now. Let's see if we can try to get the camera rolling again. But I want you to understand that a lot of times when people have the intellect, it's like they speak over people's head. That's not helping anybody. So you could go around looking really good and really intelligent, and that's not going to help anybody. But I like to speak to people at a level that they can understand. Good evening, Sean Anthony. I hope you stick around and ask questions. So today's episode is It's the Good Guy's Time. There's nothing new under the sun. And in previous episodes, I left Easter eggs, and it seems like I'm jumping around in topics at times, but I always suggest readings and things like that that could connect you to understand the episode better, because I only have a limited time in these episodes. So I drop a few Easter eggs while I go back and revert back to this topic of the show. So go back and watch those episodes, binge watch them. It can be really complicated to be in my shoes. Plus, I'm a background person. I'm not really the type that, I don't appreciate the cameras, lights, action. I'm a quiet guy. I like to be in the background somewhere helping everybody out. Guess what? That's right. It is time for the good guys to win. Not to say the good guys were not already winning. It's that originally, well, for quite some time now, not originally, but quite some time now, the good guys would just be silent. They would say, well, I'm not going to formally support anything in the open, but in the background, you know who I'm supporting. And that's a general feeling or a general trend with the good guys, because they don't have a dog in the fight, or they realize this is not going to end well for a lot of people. I'm going to just back out and let y'all fight it out. But a lot of times we're seeing right now that has led to a great deal of mental health strain. And we really need to get back into the groove of being in a mental state where people can take a little bit of the pressure. Right now, a lot of people are folding under the pressure so often that it's like, where are the good guys? And it's difficult to differentiate the good guys from everyone else. What'd you say, Eddie? Who are the good guys? That's a debate. Yes, it is a debatable, but If you think about it, your good guy mentality is when you are following your first mind. But the conditioned mindset or even group think, it pushes you or compels you or tries to force you by um, giving you rewards, positive reinforcements, what is what psychologists call it, to go along with what people want, what the group wants, what group thinks wants, or what the conditioned mannerism or group think wants you to do. The only way that you can decipher whether you're a good guy or a bad guy is, are you following your first mind? Your first mind may say, back out of this. This is not your fight. Everybody don't have to know what you're doing. Step back, let other people handle it. But it's come the time where we must identify who is, if you choose to be silent, we need to understand why you're being silent so that we're not making the wrong decision based on your silence. For example, we see a lot of people are are starting to speak up now about their personal experiences and why this election year is so personal to them. The COVID-19 pandemic took a lot of people out. Um, and there's sayings like, oh, the good die young, the good guys finish last, and things like that. So we pretty much have a good idea who the good guys are: the innocent women and children, oftentimes bystanders who have not picked a side, but for whatever reason, they fall prey to whatever the problem is that has not been addressed and has not been resolved and taken care of, to the point where it is no longer an issue or a threat, a potential issue. That's what we mean by threat. So when we say it's the good guy's turn, it's time for us to stop saying, well, slow walking and sad talking, because now we're putting to rest yet another good person who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that wrong place now is the what is it? The grocery store, the mall, anywhere. Even the good guys are also in the lines to vote, and they're standing there in the heat of the summer or whatever the inclement weather is that's detriment to the person's health, and they're standing there being a good person, being a good citizen, trying to do their part, trying to contribute in some type of way to make our society more positive. And they're falling and they're succumbing to problems that we didn't need to have. There's no way that we can say that we're confused about the things that should happen and the things that should not happen or should not even be a topic, that it has been a situation that caused some people who we consider to be innocent to fall. A lot of the times we're seeing people put their foot down because now it's personal. A lot of us have lost someone, whether we knew them intimately or not. We have lost a good guy. We've lost a good girl. We've lost a child. We've lost someone, and we're like, look, we can no longer stand by and say nothing and do nothing or act like we do not understand what's good and what's bad. Yes, good and bad does vary. And sometimes you have to be seen in the moment as being the bad guy. And later it's revealed that wasn't bad at all. You did the right thing. And it was the time that you were in that it did not reflect that way. How do we know we've come to this point? It seems like it's resonating with a lot of people, but it only seems that way because, like I spoke in some previous episodes, there's a signal, and it's like a reverberation, a sound Eddie did a show on Thursday. Go back and watch that one. And he's showing sound waves. He's showing waves where it's a beat. And that beat has waves where it's go boom, 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 boom. But oftentimes we look at a fan, right? Whether it's a ceiling fan, a box fan, or a fan in the warehouse, you've seen a fan, and it's on, and the fan blades are spinning. A lot of times we don't know, it's very deceptive how fast the blades are spinning, because we can see it. We can see the blades and we can just about count it. But when the blades stop spinning and all the noise stops around it and all the wind that has been stirring up, all the distractions, when it all stops, we can see the fan clearly. And a lot of times the blades, there's more blades there than we thought when we were perceiving it in motion. When it was in motion, there was so much noise, so much static. We couldn't tell. But when it all stopped, we could see clearly. A lot of times we have those pauses. When something extremely detrimental happens, we have that big pause, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is me, that this is happening to. That's when we start to see things, because we're no longer distracted by the positive reinforcements of, okay, you get the job. Okay, you get a promotion. Okay, keep holding on. It's going to be your turn next. And then you get to kick crap downhill, and instead of being the one where it's all falling down on you. So that's as plainly as I can put it. The sound reverberates like that fan. There's a point, there's a starting point, and that reverberation is going and going and going, and we thinking that it's going into a void. It's not. It's like a closed system, and that sound, the waves, those signals are constantly transmitting, and via that constant transmission, by the time the sound reverberates back to the original point, it could be generations past, and we could easily forget the initial sound that was transmitted. And then to further assist delayed memory, we have all these distractions, like the fan blowing all of this dirt and dust and keeping everything moving. Even the sound is difficult to hear sounds when you are under a fan, under that motion. And a lot of times we can't hear ourselves think. We can't hear our first mind, not clearly. So we end up making a decision that was contrary or completely opposite of our first mind. And that's when we can see a little more clearly, man, I wish I would have followed my first mind. I wish I would have followed my first mind. So we are currently, since after the pandemic and looking in hindsight, we have been in the mindset of, I wish we would have followed our first mind. So now there's a sound that's reverberating back to the originating point of the sound, when we, so many generations ago, said we can no longer behave in this manner. The manner in which we can't identify who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, what's the good thing to do and what's a bad thing to do, because there's so many positive reinforcements to behave in a way that's contrived to a conditioned or predictable behavior. And a lot of people are snapping out of that. They don't want the outcome that has been consistently reproduced by following that mentality, that conditioned thought. A lot of people are saying, well, I cannot go along with that anymore. We've seen it a lot with people who once attended brick and mortar schools. They're now attending online school, and a lot of them have started to go back to homeschooling, which is the traditional method of schooling. That was the very first method of schooling. And in my book, I aid understanding that was, in fact, the first method of schooling. Long before people were being paid for it, you were homeschooling. Okay, get this book. It's on Amazon. Generational Wealth, Information Asymmetry, um, and you will start to see it's not a very long read, but it's very short and to the point. It's a lot of Easter eggs in there, and you have to be watchful for the other materials that I said is free for you to read if you want to go a little deeper and take a deeper dive into understanding the intricacies. But I was very plain, surface level, clear. It's only 123 pages in the book, and not all of them are reading material because some of the pages look like this. This chapter cover here, this chapter cover where we talk about phenomena, etc. I'm trying to give you very quickly a boost in understanding because the time we are in, we are short on time to understand holistically and in a group mentality. That's why we're seeing a lot of people saying we won't go back. We're not going back because we've set out this signal that says, okay, this is what we did. This did not work. We have to do A, B, C, D, and it must be in 1, 2, 3 order. But a lot of times the books and the people, our elders who understood that and who had that knowledge, they've been removed from this current generation. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't know why I have to say anything because that's common sense. People should know that. Hi, Matthew. Well, one of the reasons why is just that, just like that. Matthew, his generation, these generations where we thought weren't going to take their leadership roles for at least another 30 years, they're taking their leadership roles now because the COVID-19 pandemic, it took a lot of people out. There's been so many people who have been sidelined, I'll just put it that way, by the ailments that derived from the COVID-19 pandemic. The young people who we are looking forward to having a brighter future as a leader later, they've started now. And it's personal. It's personal to them because they're feeling the loss of their elders because they do not have the ability to identify what's good, what's right, what's wrong, what's going to end bad. And that is the bare bones of it. What's going to end in an undesirable way? How can we tell? Well, the good guys know. And a lot of times the good guys know because they're following their first mind. They are the ones who can hear and clearly see because even through the chaos and distraction, now read the book. I try to be very clear and succinct. Even through all of the madness and the chaos, they can hear and see and think and move clearly. But a lot of people are not understanding that how they're moving. And because their movements seem erratic, it seems irrational. It seems like it's sporadic and spontaneous to the point where you just never know what's going to happen next. I can help you with that. I've seen how in a lot of this current time, we're seeing the hot topics addressed in the political atmosphere that we're currently in. We've seen how it's not just exclusive to the Democratic Party. It is some of the Republican Party, some of all of the parties. Let's put it that way. And it's being reverberated by particular people who can see and hear and think clearly, who have been educated to the point where their leadership is going to bring us to a more desirable destination, as opposed to being in a situation where a good guy can't go grocery shopping or can't go to the mall. We're to the point where we don't understand signals. We don't understand signs. We don't understand how our current behavior right now is going to affect our future in a few minutes. It's not just about, oh, this minute right now. It's about the next 5 minutes, the next 10 minutes, the next hour. It's happening just that fast that we are talking to somebody that's a good guy, a good girl, a good person. And the next moment, they're no longer here. And we want that to stop. We want that to stop. And because we want that to stop, it's time for the good guys to take their turn and say, hey, we're not doing that. We're not going back. We do know, we are aware that those actions that we are trying to condition people to go and behave in that manner is going to lead to undesirable outcomes. And as it stands right now, the global mental health cannot sustain such behavior. And because that is the fact, and there are factors of that fact, such as there's no place safe, and even soft targets, that's what they call schools now. And schools are not supposed to be called a soft target. That's what the Republican Party identified it as most recently. And it's not supposed to be considered a soft target. It's supposed to be considered a safe space. The reason why it is being considered a soft target is because we have not addressed the problems. And instead of accepting accountability, which is the first step to resolution, we deny, and give logical explanation as to why, which really isn't logical at all. So that's out the window. It's the good guys' time. You know it's wrong. You know what steps need to be taken. You know, yeah, if I take accountability for this, it's not going to look good later. It will look good later and now, and it'll be beneficial. It'll be beneficial because it's the first steps towards improvement. It's the first steps towards us getting out of the rut that we're in, where too many times good guys are sidelined and gone, and those who are left are the people who are chaotic, but they don't want to be chaotic. They're being chaotic because that was the conditioned mindset. That was the conditioned method of behavior. Where did it start? Read the book. Read the book. It's available on Amazon. Read the book. I show you. It started in brick and mortar schooling, and it's also being perpetuated in brick and mortar school. Why? Because that is where everybody goes. I don't care what your faith is, your religion. I don't care if you don't have religion or faith. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. You've been there. You've touched it. Now we're at the point where just being there is triggering and is causing a lot of like PTSD type of problems. And in the book, I do mention being mindful and the triggers, because those are important elements towards getting to a more desirable place. A lot of the times when a good guy starts to record their history, there's marked times where it's not clearly identified that that was a good person, but the things seem to turn for their good. It's times where they encountered the same hell on earth that anybody and everybody else has endured. But did you know that, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but there's this prayer that's familiar to a lot of people because a lot of people globally have heard it. And it speaks about God's will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So that there identifies that there is a behavior, a mentality, signals, a reverberation for good to be done and for people to be happy and dwell in this happiness, this wealthy place on earth, not just in heaven. So we got to stop saying, well, the good, they're gone young, but they're in a better place. There's a better place here as well. And we can all touch that and feel that again. The first step is to identify. Identify by first accepting accountability. We have to accept accountability that, yeah, right now I'm probably not being a good person. We have seen it in the most recent situations with the Democrat DNC party where they had their party. It was supposed to be a convention, but it turned out to be a party. And some of the Republicans were at the party because it's not about what you identify as in this moment, because at any given time, you can change your mind. You can be the type of person who follows their first mind instead of regretting that you did not follow your first mind. Oftentimes, we are distracted by the noises. The noises can be, oh, somebody is getting really popular. They blowing up in the social media atmosphere or in mainstream media atmosphere or whatever platform they've sought after. And they're getting a lot of attention. And everybody's like, well, that attention is getting them money. And I need that money. I want that money. I want that attention too. So I want to do it too. Those are positive reinforcements to behave in a way that may contradict your first mind. Oftentimes, we're not thinking about it that way until hindsight. That's why on one of the episodes, I showed a box and I said, in the box, a lot of people don't know when they're in the box. And then I turned the box sideways. That's when people are starting to realize their boundaries are hindering them. And they're seeing things more like a Picasso, where the picture may be good, may be bad, but it's your perspective of how you as an individual are looking at this picture. That's a lot of times the way you see your role in life, the things that you're doing in life, the decisions that you're making in the moment. You're seeing it like a Picasso. And then in hindsight, you're seeing a clearer picture that addresses you holistically, your whole man. Because now in hindsight, you can pick out and identify things that you could have done better, things you wish you would have done better. But as you continue to think about it, it's like, there's always going to be room for improvement. Always going to be room for improvement. Think about that for just a moment and give yourself a break. There's always going to be room for improvement. So to say you did right or wrong, let's just say you either did or did not follow your first mind. And let's say you have the potential to go back and redo that decision. How can you redo that decision? How can you, the time is gone, it's past. I can't make up for what I did. It's over. Yes, you can. Just like you saw some Republicans at the Democratic convention joining in on the party, go back, binge watch some episodes where I talked about you're going to want to be at the party. And here's how. I've spoke about that before it happened, trying to help you to understand there's nothing new under the sun. Read my book. It's in there. I showed some examples, very basic. And this is the pattern that we are continuing to see even now. Yes, it's a pattern. I know Sesame Street taught a whole bunch of people in my generation and beyond patterns. how we can see patterns and put things together. That's that beat. That's that wave. That's that sound of reverberation that we are thinking is resonating, something resonating with us, something somebody said or did or is doing or is creating and being innovative and motivating. No, it is a reverberation of a sound. That means there was a starting point. And in a closed system, we have a beginning point and an end point. And when that sound starts here, it reverberates and continues to reverberate till it hits the boundaries. And then it bounces back to the originating point. That familiarity can be considered in some spiritual circles, familiar spirits. It can be considered in some organizational mindsets as what do you call it? A trend or mimetic isomorphism or absorptive capacity or what we all call a system, and we call it broken. It's a broken system for a reason, because we're not necessarily moving in a manner in which progresses the sound in the way it was intended to be. So when that sound moves from this originating point and it bounces off of the final destination to go back to the original position, a lot of times information was taken out because some people felt some type of way about it. They felt like, oh, you're judging, you're condemning, you're not being a good guy. And then we put that signal back out, and we don't understand that that sound is going to keep reverberating, and it's going to get to a point and it's going to bounce right back and come back over here to the original point. Those sounds and signals and waves we are identifying as things to ignore. Put it that way. It's things we are ignoring. Why are we ignoring it? Because we don't understand the greater impact until somebody points it out. And that's what I've been trying to do, point it out to you. This is why we are in the mental health crisis that we're in. Maybe we felt at one point that sound wave went back and said, well, it's mental health. And we don't really care about mental health. We care about the money. We care about the people who are able to produce in the organizations or the institutions that's going to perpetuate wealth and generate generational wealth. But the sound reverberated back to the original point, and it said, hey, that mental health thing that you said is an intricate detail that is obsolete is significant, and it has a money aspect to it, but it didn't get back to them that it had a financial aspect to it that will be detrimental. So when that sound went back to that end point, it reverberated back to the beginning point where it's like, the finances are not looking right. But by this point in time, generations have passed, and the finances have been to the point where it's causing a global financial debt crisis, where we're losing money to the point where it's like, man, we don't know why we have a hole in the ship, but there's a hole in the ship. It's not a hole, it is many holes. And it's many holes because we kept ignoring the signal that we're calling, oh, well, that spoke to me, that resonated with me. That it's a sound. It's a sound that went out a long time ago. And we need to take heed to the sound and implement the necessary actions that identifies us as good guys. Because now we are following that signal and we're saying, hey, I heard the sound and it says, we've tried this. We've tried it and it did not produce the outcomes that we wanted. We've tried to suppress people in a manner in which we thought would generate a certain amount of wealth. at least to the 1%. But the 1% are not going to get their hands dirty. They're not willing to be productive and active in a manner in which will break a sweat. So we need those people who we once thought obsolete and collateral damage, and the good that's silent now because they've been permanently sidelined. We need those people. So we have to do something. We have to do something right now. And that's why a lot of people they thought they were doing the right thing. And they're like, well, come to find, after I've had some time to think about it, after the wind stopped blowing so hard, after all the positive reinforcements aren't coming in to the point where I can enjoy them, over the sadness of having lost an innocent life, over the grief and longingness of having that loss. I can't hear all that noise anymore. I can't see it as a positive reinforcement any longer. So now I have to do something. And what am I going to do? I'm going to go across the aisle. I'm going to shake some hands to people who I thought were my enemy. And they're my friend. Because we've had a civil war. And then in that civil war in America, we identified our neighbors as being our friends, only to learn in the moment of battle, they were not our friends. They just look like us. They just talk like us. They just smile in our faces and call themselves good guys. And we identify them as good guys because they're doing all that. They're checking all those boxes. But when it comes down to it, you realize, nah, this is not going to end well. I have to cross the aisle. I have to shake some hands of people who I thought were my enemy because they didn't look like me, because they didn't act like me, and they didn't smile in my face just to be smiling in my face. But they do smile. And it's not blowing smoke. It's tough love a lot of times. And I don't want to hear it. But I can trust them because, like me, they don't have anything left to lose. It's all up for grabs. And the moment we realize it's all up for grabs, that's when everybody starts to say, hey, yeah, they're starting to take it personal. Yeah, we're starting to take it personal. We're starting to take it real personal. You've messed with our food. You've messed with our children because they can't go to school. You messed with our food first because, the farmers who were farming couldn't farm and they were paid not to farm. And then that caused a shortage. And then that shortage perpetuated to a point where it was detrimental. And then you started messing with our health, which essentially is our food. And then you started to say, oh, just ignore it because you're going to get your turn soon. And then when it came to be my turn, you flipped the game and some new guy came up and took my spot. That was supposed to be my time. So what we thought was predictable is no longer predictable. And that's why a lot of people are saying, no, I have to see my good guy within. It's the good guy's turn. You are the good guy. Even if right now you're identifying as the bad guy, you can turn around and observe your atmosphere. Make better decisions. Join the party. Everybody is welcome to the party. The issue is, will you enjoy it? Because you were on the wrong side for too long. You took stance in situations that cost everybody to mourn in such a way that we have to party really hard just to get over the fact that we are hurting so bad. so bad that we got to party real hard just to know the pain for as long as we possibly can before we go back to our reality. Can't escape reality. And we all have to, at some point, accept accountability, especially when we're alone, when we're sleeping or trying to sleep. It's coming back. That sound that originated from one point and came back to another. In the transition, in the middle there, is you and your ability to sleep, to not be stressed. And stress shows itself in different ways. Go back and look at the episodes where I showed that. Or just, go ahead and go to Amazon and find my book. Get the book. Read the book. Understand the book. Come back here and ask some questions. Go and read anything that I've written academically. Tina Phillips. Go look up some stuff. You'll be surprised. It's very plainly put, because all the people that you thought were eggheads, somebody had to speak plainly. And then they took that, rewrote it in an egghead way to make it seem as if it was their own. But when they can't continue it, it becomes more obvious. Yeah, that was coveted. That was coveted information. You stole that from somebody. Where'd you get that from? Is that person? Are you still talking to that person? Are you still connected to that person? Can we go a little further than what we have right here? Because we're stuck. We're stuck. We're stuck in a situation where we are aware that we are stuck. How do we move forward? How do we move forward? I keep trying to get us there. I keep trying to lead us there, but it's difficult when people constantly covet because they want the praise, they want the reward, they want the false accolades. We have to stop doing that. That's a part of perpetuating a broken system that we all know is a broken system. It is not about just the one bad actor. For example, the young lady in Chicago who was shot by the police and killed in her own home. Everybody wanted the cop who did it. But in investigation, we can see it is more than just the front man, the face, the bad actor in that one moment that we can identify and all agree, unanimously agree, was bad, was wrong. There are some others in the system. We must go back. We must correct and improve. But first comes accountability. You cannot fix what you do not accept accountability for. It didn't just stop at the commissioner of that district, that the police officer who was employed in that district. It didn't stop at that commissioner. In investigating that situation, we have seen the still waters ran deep, and it ran across systems, across districts, across country. And now we understand what it is to be a good guy. When we saw President Joe Biden say, okay, I'm going to be the good guy. I'm going to step down from running a second term, and I'm going to pass the torch. He didn't have to do that. He could have ran. We would have voted for him. We would have voted for him because he was the better person out of the two. He had more experience. He had more familiarity. He knew the practices. So the business practices, whether it's mimetic isomorphism or absorptive capacity, or whether it's just a broken system and everybody's following it plainly. It's the matter of the fact that that familiarity gets a predictable understanding or response and outcome, which is associated with a certain amount of money, predictable amount of money. And that is the objective. A lot of times we're coming to understand now the objective is beyond the finances, because people cannot spend money if they're 6 feet under in the ground. You can't spend any money. And there's no amount of money that's going to cover the losses of all those people who are 6 feet under, whether it's here in America or overseas. There's no amount of money. And the leadership that's holding on to their leadership because they're holding people, other people accountable for their decisions, and all the while putting innocent people between them and the resolution. And then those people, those innocent people, once they're all gone, then that leadership wants to make a bargain, wants to make a deal, but it'll be too late. You'll be facing some people who have identified themselves as good people, and they've identified as the problem, an unredeemable problem. And there lies the problem in and of itself, where we keep going back and forth, whether we're a good guy or a bad guy. Because sometimes good people have to do bad things, or things that's perceived to be bad in the moment, or even in hindsight. So the matter of us getting back to being the good guy, we have to stop. We have to stop listening to the noise. We have to stop accepting the positive reinforcements for things that we know are contrary to our first mind. And our first mind is self-preservation based, but at the same time, you cannot preserve yourself without having at least one person, one other person. And in history, a lot of the times the history is shown in books of faith that a lot of people don't want to read because they don't want to be subjected to that particular faith. But we're seeing in that you must have someone. And that someone oftentimes looks like you, acts like you, thinks like you, and smiles in your face. But is that person really a good guy in the moment? And will it be perceived to be later? It's a juggle. It's a balance. But one thing we know for sure and definite, the things we have done in the past, we cannot repeat the mistakes. So we must listen to that sound that said, we tried this. It didn't work. It did not render the desired outcome that was beneficial for the whole to progress in a manner in which sustains us to reproduce in a way we can continue to reproduce. Whether we have just a little bit of money or a lot of money, whether we have a little bit of raw resources to continue to build something new and creative that will help us sustain ourselves and continue to thrive in the future, or whether we use up all of our raw resources and have nothing left. What then? You can't think of everything by yourself. You need some people. In the beginning, God created Adam, and he was the only man, only person, only human, until God looked upon Adam and saw that was not good. It's not good for man to be alone. Why is that? Because you cannot think of everything and do everything and be everywhere all at the same time. That's only God. You have a timeline, a strict, narrow timeline, and you must follow that narrow path or suffer the consequences. So you need help. If you fall and you can't get up, but stuff still needs to be done, you need another person who can do everything that you can do and you can trust to do it. So you need somebody. And in this day and age, we're coming to identify that somebody may not look like us. That somebody may not be our neighbor. That somebody may be across the aisle. It may be somebody I called an enemy. It may be somebody who originally I put out the wrong signal and it came back to me and I saw the errors of my ways. I saw that I was in a box and I put boundaries on myself. And now I've turned that box sideways and I'm seeing things as a Picasso. And now, even further, as time has gone, I can see in hindsight and I wish I had the time to do it better, do it right, have a better outcome, a more desirable or even happier situation where maybe more people who were considered innocent would have lived a little longer or a lot longer. We're coming to the point where it's personal for everybody. It's personal for everybody because really, deep down, everybody's a good guy. Everybody's a good guy that's doing something wrong. Wrong because it's more of a selfish act that's being carried out as opposed to something that's going to benefit everyone, not just in the moment, but in the long run. So it is important that we learn from the signal. And it's not something that you can burn in a book. It's not something that you can ignore that's written in books of faith. It's not something that can be destroyed. It is a signal. It is sound. That's why a lot of people in the spiritual understanding, they call it a spirit. It's a familiar spirit. But in science, we call it a sound wave. It is a sound, it is a signal, and it's perpetual, and it's coming back and it's bouncing from one end to the other, the originating point to the final destination and back again, back and forth, back and forth. That's why it sounds so familiar. That's why it seems like you understand it, like deja vu, like this happened before, like there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah, like that. And for every action, there's a greater or equal counteraction. So you have that back and forth, regardless of the way you perceive it, regardless of the way you understand it. It is a matter of being in a closed system and sound bouncing off the walls and going back and forth, back and forth. It never dies. It may get absorbed, but it does not die. It just keeps going. And even once it's absorbed, once that thing is absolved, that sound continues to perpetuate its motion. So you can't destroy it by burning books. You can't destroy it by silencing the quote unquote good guys. You can't destroy it by denying its existence or its presence. It is something that is innate, like the air we breathe, that you didn't create and you can't stop, even if you isolate it and you take all the air out that way, but there's still air. Air's still around everywhere, even if you've blocked it from being in that one spot. You cannot stop it for good. It's perpetual. It's going to keep going and going. So while we can say, well, we don't know what's good. We don't know what's bad. We don't know this and that. And we're going to continue to perpetuate a broken system, even though we know it's broken. Look, it's personal. It's personal now. People have put their feet down, not one foot. They've put both feet down. And they're saying, we're not going back. You're free to move forward with us, but we will not go back. And if you try to drag us back, well, the IRA, they've made sure that nobody's going by force, not easily. So everybody has weapons and no one's going to go back. So you have to think about it. What hill are you willing to perish on? Or are you ready to join the party and have fun and enjoy things with people who didn't look like you, but they're on your side? That's been my show for today. Remember, mental health is physical wealth. Teddy, take us out of here. I don't know. Let me see if I can. Teddy, I don't know. Can you take us out of here? That's the thing about nighttime. Let me see. Banners. Let me go. I don't know how to do this. Teddy, can you take us out of here? Because I'm really bad at this. Is that a no?